Hello, welcome to the ninth day of March 2022. My name is Kurt, and this is my daily Good Life meditation, an activity that I do just after I wake up every morning to remind myself of my life objectives and principles, and to check how I'm doing, kind of like an oil dipstick. Check how I'm doing with regard to applying them to the challenges of my life, particularly last night and yesterday. First, a review. Yesterday was kind of typical. Woke up as usual. Day went pretty much as usual. But I did know that there was kind of a shift in my general attitude. Kind of just a brightening. I think it's coming through in the camera right now. Just kind of, I tend to be a very optimistic, upbeat person in general. But sometimes I get overly concerned about things, and it kind of dampens things. It's more like just kind of like a gentle mood swing, and I mean gentle. It's not too extreme. I mean, I do get times in my life when I have a really extreme shifts. I mean, almost cataclysmic. I mean, I don't know what the definition of depression would be, but there are times that I'm quite down, on life. Those episodes come. But this isn't quite like that. This is just kind of like is it an overcast day or a sunny day? And I feel it shifting back to being a sunny day. The weather's nice all around. The climate is nice. The climate of life is nice at this moment. But the climate is nice, and it's a fine day. It's a sunny day in Southern California. I feel good. So yesterday at work, another good day of solid work, although I did feel my energies wind down after about 2 p.m. I finished work at 4:30, so I had to struggle through those last 2.5 hours, but still I was very productive. Another solid day, and I felt good. That might be part of the reason why I'm feeling better. Is I've had just if I was doing batting practice right now and the balls are coming, I'm getting solid strikes on. I mean, not strike out, but solid hits. The balls fly in every one of them. Not home runs, but every one of them, which means that I'm really being productive every day, and that always has a lightening effect on my outlook. So that might be why I'm feeling a little better. Again, it's not that I was feeling bad before, but there was just kind of an overcast over things. I think it was related, and it was particularly at particular times of the day. That kind of an overcast feeling would come on me about the time that I would wake up before the alarm went off, would linger about, and it would start to go away about 20 minutes, 30 minutes into my workday. Starting my workday always dispels those feelings, especially if I jump in, head first. And then pretty much that was, come to think of it, if you think about the cycle, that was pretty much it. It's about that kind of a overcast feeling started about 3 to 4 a.m. and lasted until about 9 a.m. So at worst, it would be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 6 hours. That's like 6 hours of melancholy. It sounds like a bad movie. That's kind of curious that I've isolated that. I'd never realized that before. Kind of if there was a little clock. From no, that would be. Oh yeah, it's 6. I've got to do this right. it's a quarter of a day, which is a long time. So my 6 hours of melancholy looks like that, from about 3 a.m. to 9 p.m. Swinging into work. Okay, excuse me while I scratch an itch. The evidence mounts, does it not? It's pointing more and more. Everything's pointing to work. Two pieces of evidence now. The first being, well, let's go reverse order. One piece being what I just discovered: the 6 hours of melancholy between 3 a.m. and 9 p.m., 9 a.m. And then the other piece of evidence is the fact that when I wake up, with the one exception of that insomnia where I was thinking about that non-existent Japanese debt. Every time when I wake up and have that insomnia, I wake up thinking about my job. I'm thinking about the things that I have to do and worrying if I'm going to get them done. I think it's my job. I never had this problem in Japan. I never really worked. I mean, in Japan, I wasn't too happy with my job because it was I just didn't like it. I did not enjoy being an English teacher, and I didn't feel challenged, and a lot of other factors. It was a struggle to support my family, and I didn't feel like I was really, engaging with my life, my career. I didn't feel like I had a career in Japan. I felt like I had a job. That's what I did. Here I have a career, and there's still options yet. In fact, Yumiko and I were talking about that over the weekend. Still options. I made one foray into the management realm. That's kind of the next level up. Worker bee. Well, there's worker bee like me, supervisor, and then manager. And my last job, I kind of hopped over the supervisor right into the manager role, and I did not like that. I quickly realized, I am not, I'm not a keeper of men. If you know what I mean. I'm a worker bee, but so I don't really want to go anywhere with this career. Really, I like where I am. I don't even really want to be a supervisor. I'm attracted to the idea of the pay, but not even that really. Whew, glad I had the one experience that I had of it, because I realized I don't want it. But anyway, I totally digress. The point was, I didn't have this anxiety in Japan. I had kind of a different type of anxiety in Japan. I had an anxiety about just a rest. It wasn't anxiety. It was really a restlessness. It's like just I didn't like my job. That's what it was. Here, I actually like my job. As much it's a job, right? If I won the lottery, I wouldn't do it anymore. I'd keep at it for another 6 months to find a nice exit, until they found someone to replace me. But it's a job still, but it's fun and it's interesting, it's challenging, and I'm growing as a result of it. But it stresses the hell out of me, and it worries the hell out of me, and it keeps me up at night, and it gives me a depressive funk between 3 a.m. and 9 a.m. almost every day except weekends. But man's got to do what he's got to do. Woman's got to do what she's got to do. So I'll keep on doing it. A slightly different topic. I had an interesting encounter yesterday. A chance more about yesterday. So work went fine. Solid day of work. I had wanted to talk about. I don't know if I can talk about enlisting any of my good life objectives or principles, but no, it isn't. I walk through the neighborhood 3 times a day. I take the dogs for a walk in the morning, and I have a course that I take them on the morning because it's timed. And then I have a course that I take them in at noon. You meet when I walk together to the dog park, and we let the dogs roam free at the dog park, and then we come back. And in the afternoon or early evening, I take a third and final walk, and it's more random, but I always tend to, it's wherever the dogs want to go. It's their walk, and it can go for anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half. I imagine when summer gets, or not summer because it'll be too hot, but lighter in the evening, we can go as long as 2 hours. So it's just a real ramble. Anyway, I've noticed something about my neighborhood. It's populated with a lot of retired men. And what's interesting is that I'm starting to, I keep asking myself, what are these guys doing all day? There's one right across the street. I can see him from my window here. Because it's like, don't these guys work? And then what I'm starting to realize is that it's not that they're a bunch of, middle-aged guys, middle-aged bums without a job. It's that they're retired. Well, I know this because they tell me this, because I talk to them. But what the thing was that got me was that when I suddenly realized, my problem was, they're my age. I'm their age. Almost. Like, they can't, none of them can be more than 5 years older than me. I'm 58. So these guys are all, I mean, okay, maybe the one guy I was talking to yesterday, maybe he's 65, because he just retired like 9 months ago. Maybe he's 65 going on 66. But they're all just, they're my cohort. They're my age group. And that's what got me, was I was misplacing those roles. I was thinking they were a bunch of bums. I'm not realizing I'm just an old man. I'm part of that group. Anyway, the one guy I was talking about yesterday, the one that just retired 9 months ago, he's kind of at a loss to know what the hell to do. And so I talked to him, and he's opening up more and more to me. And he putts around in his garage, and he bought this little boat, this little fishing boat, a little aluminum thingy. And we've got several lakes in this area, and he goes out and fishes regularly. And he's like a man that's, you know, taken up a hobby that he's not so confident in, or not so sure of. Like maybe he decided he was going to be a woodworker, and he went out and bought, a saw and a drill and some nails, and or whatever woodworkers have, all that stuff. And then he spends his time, and that's what the guy across the street spends his time doing. He's got his garage door open, and he's got this wood shop. I could give his name. He's a nice guy. I'm getting to know all their names too. Anyway, he across the street seems to, either been on a project, or he seems to be pretty into it. I think he's been retired longer. He's got that look. And then there's the other guy I'm talking about with the boat. Every time I talk to him, he's like, it's almost like he's like, because I ask him, how's the fishing going? Because I can tell when he's been fishing because his little boat's gone, and he comes back. He just goes for the day, and he tells me about it. And it sounds like he's almost trying to convince himself that he had a good time, or convince himself about his boat. I think he's struggling to find his place. He almost as much as tells me that, right? About the days, the long days, and what's really evident is that as he's gotten to know me more, he like won't let me go, right? He just, like last night, the darn, I was reading my book, and when I came up and I got to his house, and I heard him shout out at me from the garage, and I said, "Hey, how you doing?" And I knew he'd been fishing because his boat was gone, and his boat was parked in the driveway, and I asked him about it, and he wouldn't let me go. He kept me there 15 minutes, just going on and on and on about all kinds of stuff. Just filling the time, as old men tend to do, beginning where he didn't have anything to tell me, and it was all about him, and it was all about his fishing. It's like he's filling the void. And then what really got interesting was when he had nothing to say about his day of fishing, he reached back in time and he brought back an anecdote about how his wife had told their son about how he used to fish in the ocean. Because I guess he used to fish. But he does the fishing because his son likes fishing. And he was going on and on about how his son wants him to fish. And he doesn't want to keep up with his son because they're too competitive. So, the whole thing was interesting to me. And it was kind of a glimpse of what's forward, because I'm scared of retirement. I'm afraid I'm going to be one of those guys that won't know what the hell to do with myself. As much as that surprises me, because I think I know what to do with the hell to do with my free time. But that's something I like about my job, is that once I'm in, despite the 6 hours of glum from the time Venus first begins to rise until my first cup of coffee is set in, despite that, once I'm going, I feel good. Oh, and I feel good when I get a lot of good work done. And in some ways, I'm really at the top of my game with my job, my career. I'm good at what I do, and it feels good to get things done and to really move things forward. If I do say so myself, But I guess that's part of the reason I wanted to come back and do this. That sense of fulfillment that comes from doing something that's hard and again doing it well. And will I have that after I retire? I mean, shoot, I have lots of things I want to do. I want to evangelize my book, so to speak, the message. But will I wind up just filling the day with filler, and filler's activity, and finding some hobby to while away the hours, and to fill in the chinks with the memories of the past, possibly, and to begin to, and you can see it in him, even though he's only been retired a short time, you can see that guy. He's devolving. And then there's an older cohort of men that walk the streets. There's one, Harold, I don't mind telling his name, and they call him Mr. Menifee where we live here. And he's a former Marine, and he's probably early to mid 70s, fit as a Marine, man. I mean, that guy he runs, but he is kind of off in this area of irrelevance now. You talk to him, and it's just like talking to an old man, because he is an old man. And he always does the same thing. Like first time we ran into him with Emiko, he always does the same thing. He always kind of does this feigned punch in my face, right? He goes like that. And he goes, they call me Flash. He does it every time I talk to him. He finds pretense to call himself Flash, and to do the feigned punch in the face, right? And so I said, we were walking with the dogs, and we came up with Emiko. I said, watch, he's gonna punch me in the face. Sure enough, they call me Flash. He's evolved or devolved into some it's like a broken record. And he always tells me the same stories about it's sad stories. I won't relate them because it's his personal stuff. But he tells me the same stories, challenging stories, and his fixed opinions, his fixed gaze at life. It's like a man that's like one of those Indian sages that ties themselves up into a pretzel and gazes at the sun. It's always the same tortured perspective of penance. It's not even penance. It's strength, and all that, or crawling like an inchworm across, measuring an entire country, like crawling like an inchworm across. It's like, what you doing today? I'm crawling like an inchworm. That's maybe where I'm headed. Hey. Okay, let's do the good life. Now, I spent a lot of time talking about this stuff. Let's do the lightning round. Here we go. Six objectives, 7 objectives. To be always ready to die. Stumbled out of my mouth. To be always ready to die. To make good and effective use of time. to develop and maintain good and sound life principles, to cultivate good emotional reactions, to perform good actions, to recognize true limits and true opportunity, and to do just one thing at a time, and to do that thing slowly. That's the crappiest job I've done in a long time. Okay, let's keep up this crappy job. 30 principles. The principle of war, the principle of reason, the homunculus, the Anchorhold, the home of good and evil, purpose, atomic principle, principle of nature, the pirate ride, maturity, social principle, public speaking, temperance, the horror show, the Feast of Offal, distraction, agency in the great indifference, the best seat in the house, the path of wildness, the risk of avoiding risk, sin and damnation, complete oblivion, the great life adventure, the season of philosophy, the bullseye aim, the uphill climb, arena and utility. Did I miss something? Nothing is enough. And then the principle of fun. I must have missed one because I came up with an odd number. Oh well, that's what I get when I go fast. I screw up. Okay. As for today I think I have just 2 or 3 meetings. Kind of a challenge in one of the meetings, but I think I figured out a way to do it. It's a challenge to solve a problem without making people, okay, it's back to the thing about, the nature, the principle of nature. I really don't want to get into it because it reveals things about my work and the people I work with, so I won't do that. Let me just say that the principle of nature came to my rescue last night when I was trying to think about this one problem. Whereas before I had the good life, before I had these tools, I would have fought my way towards an objective that I think is the right thing to do. But in this way, I'm not going to give it up, but I'm going to, it's an insurmountable peak. But I can get to the other side if I go around the mountain. So I'm going to go around the mountain. I like that one better. I was going to call this 6 hours of melancholy, but that's a good one. I'm going to do that, going around the mountain when she comes. Have a good day. Be safe, but not too safe.